How to deal with siblings, marrying and having a rough time in marriage. Disappointment fuels the fear. Yeah, that just seems to confirm that once it goes bad, it's going to keep going bad. So your parents got divorced, and now your siblings are having a hard time. This is not good news. So obviously this means that you're next, right? Of course. Why should you not suffer when everybody else is suffering? You see how humble you are? You're welcoming the suffering because, what else do you deserve? I mean, come on. That's a little too much humility. One of the things you might suggest to your sibling, when you walk into a room expecting to be disappointed, you're going to be disappointed, obviously. If you're expecting disaster, you're inviting disaster. So you should try this. Imagine your husband is exactly what you need. Imagine your wife is exactly what you need. How would you behave? If things were perfect, how would you behave? Picture that and behave that way. You'll be amazed by how things will change. We're so convinced that things are bad, we're so intimidated by the problem that we surrender to it. Oh, we scream and kick and complain, but basically you've surrendered to the fact that you're going to have a miserable life. Life, not wife. But if you say, let's act as if everything is perfect and see how that feels. Feels pretty good. So you break the habit of assuming that things are going to be difficult. And that's good. So suggest to your siblings who are having problems, don't walk into the house at the end of the day expecting to pick up on the argument you had this morning. Break it. Break that cycle. Walk in thinking, my wife is perfect for me. It's exactly what I need. I am completely happy with her, and therefore I'm going to act that way. See what happens.
Aren't you supposed to expect nothing? Why are we supposed?
You should expect nothing, but you should appreciate everything. The appreciation makes a huge difference in your own mind and in your communication skills. So imagine that it's perfect and you're going to walk in appreciating what you have. What would you sound like then? How would you act then? It's like the Rebbe says, we want to get ready for Mashiach. Well, start acting as if he's here. Don't wait till the last minute. So you want your marriage to be a happy one, a healthy one, and a pleasurable one? Well, start. Don't wait for it to be that way. Start. Fake it. Fear to marry Therefore, I commit to growth and development. How do I know when I'm ready and when I'm just holding back due to fear? This is part of the problem of self-development. When have you ever had enough? See these guys who pump iron and bodybuilders? They don't know when to quit. Like, way overdone. Because once you start improving yourself, when are you good enough? Never. So it becomes a lifetime obsession and you have no time for anybody else. So the commitment to growth and development, as Chassidim, we have a very different approach. There are people who want to grow in Yiddishkeit, meaning they want to become bigger Talmud Chacham. They want to become a holier tzaddik, if they're into that. They want to become a more important figure in the community, which means they want to attain, gather up as much good stuff as possible for themselves. To a chassid, development and growth means something else. Development and growth for a chassid means, have I done enough for you? Serving the Eibishter doesn't mean become a Talmud Chacham. Serving the Eibishter means, what can I do for you? And the more available I am for you, that's my growth and that's my development. That's why Chassidim, theoretically, are supposed to be capable of loving every Jew. Because working on yourself means the ability to see the importance and the beauty of somebody else and wanting to serve them. That's your personal growth. But to hoard more money for yourself, or more wisdom for yourself, or more knowledge for yourself, and more authority for yourself, that's not even growth, that's deterioration. You're going in the wrong direction. And you will lose all your relationship skills. You'll become a miserable, selfish, unfriendly person. So what is growth and development? Getting out of myself, not more into myself. Getting more out of yourself should never stop. There's never enough, there's never too much. It's always healthy. But getting into yourself, a little bit is fine, but more than that is poison. So how do I know whether I'm ready and holding back from fear, or I'm really not ready? To know whether you're ready, the only question that is relevant is, are you generous enough to take care of another person? Or does the burden of taking care of somebody else and caring about their feelings and about their happiness, if that feels like too much of a burden, then you're not ready. But if you feel like you're generous enough and sensitive enough, and you can actually make somebody very happy, well then go for it, even if you're afraid. Don't let the fear stop you. What is your relationship with dysfunctional parents? Do I owe them anything? Yes, you owe them a son. You have to be their son. Which means for your own sake, you have to be at peace with the fact that these are your parents. Stop fighting it. Stop wishing it away. Stop objecting to having them as your parents. Accept them as your parents, because they are. And you are their son. Get comfortable with that. It's fine. You're not getting much from them, much positive. Maybe you got a lot of pain from them. That's the way it goes. But those are your parents. You'll never have others. That's what God gave you. Make peace with it. It's okay. One of the practical things is, would you introduce them to your best friend? Or are you too ashamed of them? I've been telling people for a long time, when you go out, ask the girl on the first date a very simple, innocent question. Just say, how's your mother? And if she says, I don't talk about my mother, then forget it. This is not a healthy person. She's still angry at her mother. She's still punishing her mother. She's married to her mother. And the same is true in reverse. A girl should ask a guy, how's your father? And if the guy says, I hate him, okay, then go home. Work it out. And when you've settled that one, then you come talk to me. But you're so preoccupied with that. You're not available to anybody. So what do you need to do? Not go home and build a relationship with your parents. Just make peace with it. So imagine that your parents are really weird, and they're really impossible, and they're really embarrassing, but you bring your best friend home, or you bring your kala home, and you say, I want to introduce you to my parents. They're weird. They're weird, but they're my parents. Say hello to them. That's healthy. Everybody's entitled to a certain amount of failure, including parents. So if they failed, okay, they're entitled. Everybody gets to fail. If you take it personally, don't fail at my expense. They didn't fail at your expense. They failed at their own expense. They didn't do it to you. So don't take it personally, and make peace with the parents that you have. It's okay. Then you feel like you're somebody's son. If you're somebody's son, you're normal. But if you're a son and there are no parents, either you're God or you're just weird. You're worried that you won't be able to fulfill everything your wife needs and make her really happy. Don't worry about it. You won't. Uh-huh. Makes up.
Multifaceted people. They have all these different
Yes.
angles. So
And you will not fulfill all their needs. Don't even try that. Don't even try that. Of course, you're going to disappoint. But that's okay. She's not expecting you to be perfect. She's just expecting you to be good to her. That's all. If she knows that you're there for her and that you're really interested in her, it doesn't matter how much you do or how little you do. She just needs to know that she's not alone, ever. And that's what scares women the most. When they have a problem and you just don't care. You're not there. You're half listening because you just want to do something else. That scares them because that means they're alone. That's the worst thing. Marriage, if it isn't anything else, marriage is supposed to be a permanent cure for loneliness. If it doesn't even cure her loneliness, this is not good. If it does take away her loneliness, she's fine. With a little more jewelry, a little less jewelry, she'll be okay.
What happens after a bit if you actually stop caring?
Hmm?
What happens after a bit of being married, you actually stop caring?
Then you're not a nice guy.
No, but you can't.
That's why you have to be generous. You don't stop caring.
also some people that you become friends with, like you become very good friends with them for a period of time, then like even a year or two later, like whatever. Now we're talking 80 years. Like how's that gonna stay strong?
Because your wife is not your friend. It's a different relationship. A friend, yeah. It's good up to a point, and beyond that you grow apart. But husband and wife do not grow apart. They keep getting closer. They share more. Now they've got children. Now they've got a house. Now they've got grandchildren.
If husband and wife
They never got together. That's where very often people come, a couple, and they sit down and they start cursing each other and complaining about each other. And then when they're finally exhausted, they say, "So you think we should get divorced?" And I say, "I don't think you ever got married. Maybe you should think of getting married. Because you don't talk like a married couple. You sound like two people trying to share an apartment." And you both can't afford it. How do you expect that to work? Marriage is a different thing. And you gotta remember this. Marriage is not a friendship or a partnership. I know we use that word a lot. Your wife is your best friend, marriage is a partnership. Don't buy that stuff. It's not a partnership. It's not 50-50. You're going to be the husband. And that puts you in the lead. You have to lead. You have to take responsibility. You have to carry the burdens, including her burdens. You're there to be her man, not her partner. She doesn't need a partner. She needs a man. And you don't need a partner. You need a woman.
So there's no chance after getting married and having a good marriage for a few years that you just stop being interested in each other?
You stop being interested in the same way. You develop new interests. What used to be important is not. New things become important. It's like people complain, since the children were born, we have no time for each other. Is that a complaint? Now you share children. Now you have that in common. That means you're growing apart? No, you just have another way of being together, which you didn't have before. So yeah, before you spent all the time together, because you had nobody else. Now there are children, you got to spend time with the children. But children don't tear you apart. They bring you much closer. Mother of my children, father of my children. That's huge.
Another question. Is it okay if parents stay together just because of the children?
Yes.
Otherwise they want to get divorced?
Yes. It's the most noble, normal, responsible, positive thing to do.
Why? They don't want to be together.
They're causing more dysfunction in the home by remaining together.
Then it's not for the kids.
So then they should get divorced.
Yeah,
Their mindset has to be around the kid.
then they're staying together because they like making each other miserable. That's also a good reason. Sometimes you hear these couples arguing and they're enjoying it so much. They don't want to mess it up, you know? Do it. Keep doing it. I don't take away your pleasure. Parents who really are committed to their children and will stay together because of their children will not mess their children's life up by arguing in front of them. It doesn't make any sense. I'm so devoted to my children, I'll stay married, but I'll make them miserable every minute. Come on, what is that? Are you using your children to punish your spouse? That is real evil. But that's not what we're talking about. Parents who feel responsible for their children, that's very noble. The Rebbe once told somebody who wanted to get divorced, who's going to walk your children down to the chuppah? A stranger? You can't do that to them. After they're married, we'll talk about it. Because they had 7 children. After the 7th kid is married, they're not going to want to get divorced. They're going to be too old for that. But the Rebbe's statement was, if you've taken care of your children and you've married them off, then you can get divorced. But before that, what are you doing? Be responsible parents. It's the right thing to do. So unless there is really an ugliness that must stop, there's no reason that parents shouldn't stay together for the children. Why is it better if they stay together for each other? Why are they more important than their children? Should we stay together and make each other happy, or should we stay together and make the children happy? Oh, whichever. I don't know. Who's more important? Either one. Be nice if it was both. But if you stay together and you make each other miserable and you make the children miserable, what are you doing? Who are you really thinking about?
What if they actually are making their children happy, but they themselves are miserable by being with the person?
That is magnificent. That's called Mesiras Nefesh. And they're going to have great kids.
What if you marry someone and years in, you realize they have some like really horrible quality or something that's like disturbing and you just can't live with it, it's drives you crazy?
So here's the point. When you say can't live with it, is that a literal statement or is that kind of like a poetic? Maybe. Maybe not. So when somebody comes and says, you think I should get divorced? I have this problem, my wife, blah, blah, blah. Should I get divorced? The answer is no. No. Never get divorced. But if a person comes and says, I can't take this, I'm getting divorced, then you say, what can I do to help? So if they're asking, then the answer is no. When they really need to get divorced, they don't ask. It's done. Then you got to help them. Help them get out. And that's what the Eibishter does. The Eibishter says, get married, become one, raise your children. It's all basher. This is your soulmate. But when something happens and they cannot stay together, the Eibishter says, okay, let me help you out. Here's how you write a get. Here's how you give it. Here's how you do it. And you're divorced. So he actually helps you get divorced. But he never recommends it. When it's done, it's done. When the relationship is over, it's over. And then just get out because you're poison. But if there's still a question, should I, do I have to? Well then no, don't. So I've actually had this couple not long ago. A couple came and said, should we stay together for the children? I said, what do you mean should you? Can you? They said, no. I said, so what are you asking? So what are you asking? If you could stay together for the children, you'd be nicer to each other in the first place. So you can't. So what are you asking? On the other hand, if they come along and they say, we can't stay together, I say, are you sure you can't? Maybe you can. Maybe you're exaggerating. So you always take the other side and see what's real. But it is so generous of the Eibishter to create divorce. Because he makes the marriages. He's the one who wants you married to your wife, and he tells you how to get divorced? That is very kind. It's like, okay, my plan failed, bail out.
Isn't it all part of the master plan?
Huh?
Isn't it all part of the master plan?
Yeah.
Divorce is also part of the plan in the second half.
Yep. But he tells you how to do it. It's actually a mitzvah to give a get when you're getting divorced. That's why they say that getting divorced is not as bad as breaking up an engagement. Because breaking up an engagement is just two very devastated people. there's no mitzvah. Getting divorced, at least there's a mitzvah there. So, on a positive note, our relationship with each other very closely follows our relationship with the Eibishter. It's scary how they're dependent on each other. If you're not even sure there's an Eibishter, are you really sure you're married when you're married? If you have doubts about the God of Israel, are you not going to have doubts about your own wife? You won't. Because the relationship with the Eibishter and the relationship with a wife are very similar. There's a certain degree of faith that you have to have, a certain degree of trust, a certain degree of ahava, a certain degree of yira. You have to have it all. Yira is the respect. So everything it takes to have a relationship with the Eibishter, exactly the same you're going to need for a relationship with a wife. You have to have a certain amount of humility. You have to take responsibility. Exactly the same things. So what happens, people who don't have Yiddishkeit turn their marriage into a religion. That's their only outlet for trust and love and fear and devotion, and it makes the marriage a little too heavy. It's not a religion. You have to have a relationship with the Eibishter for spiritual reasons, and then you have to have a relationship with your wife, which is very similar, but for physical reasons. You can't turn your marriage into a religion. So when a person says, my wife is not giving me everything I need. Whoa, only God can give you everything you need. Why are you expecting your wife to be God? Because you don't expect God to give you anything. So your wife becomes the substitute God. And she doesn't want to be God. She just wants to be your wife. So the better your relationship is with the Eibishter, the better your marriage is going to be. Now your relationship with the Eibishter can get out of control too. It can get crazy. And then your marriage is going to suffer for that. So a good relationship with the Eibishter means a healthy relationship, not an obsession, not a fanatical preoccupation. A good relationship. I'm looking for clarity. Coming from two different homes has always made this a struggle for me. How do I reconcile having two different upbringings? It's like learning Gemara. Always made me crazy. You're not allowed to do such and such. Oh, wait. That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yosi, no, that's just... But then there's a third opinion that Rabbanon say, can you just tell me what I'm supposed to do? Oh, make me crazy? That's like being raised by two parents who don't agree on anything, or being raised in two homes. So Gemara can be very frustrating. Like, why do I need to know this? Chassidus says both opinions are correct. Don't try to figure out which one is right. They're both right. They both have something good about them. They both have wisdom to them. So you have both. Why shouldn't you have both? Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Of course you only do what Beis Hillel says, because you got to pick one. But to know what Beis Shammai says, very important. Because everything he says is great. So find the truth. That's what you're looking for. Don't compare styles or details. Find the truth. There's the truth in what your mother says, and there's the truth in what your father says. And the rest, Even if they were living together, you'd have to ignore it. So don't look for a single color to life. Life has many colors, but look for a single morality in all of the colors. In some way, seeing two lifestyles is enlightening. So here's that final thing I was going to tell you. According to Shulchan Aruch, according to God's law, a man is not allowed to daven sitting next to women. It has to be a mechitza. Most people can understand that. Makes perfect sense. If it's a social event, men and women are mingling, you're not going to daven with much kavanah or too much kavanah. You're going to daven with too much kavanah to impress the woman sitting next to you. So it's understandable that if you're speaking to God, you should focus on Him and not be distracted by Him. What about sitting next to your wife in shul? They should have like little family boxes. Everybody sits next to their wife and to their children. Wouldn't that be beautiful? No, you're not allowed. Why? So most people will say, God doesn't want you to be distracted even by your own wife. If you have a healthy relationship with God, you would know that that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like God. God is jealous if you're sitting next to your wife and you're paying attention to your wife. He's jealous because he wants all the attention. Does this sound like God to you? Particularly since he invented marriage and he married you off to this woman. Now he's jealous that you're talking to her or thinking about her. Doesn't sound right. Probably the reason you're not allowed to daven while sitting next to your wife is because, as far as God is concerned, when you're sitting next to your wife, you should be talking to her. He's not jealous. He likes marriage. And therefore, when you're sitting next to your wife, don't talk to me, talk to her. That's like husbands who come to me and say, what can I do to make my wife happy? Why are you asking me? Did you ask her? Wouldn't that be the right thing to do? In fact, you really want me to tell you how to make her happy? I'll get back to you. I'm going to ask her and I'll tell you. But then again, you could ask yourself. So why doesn't he ask her? Why is he coming to ask me? And I'm sure God feels exactly the same way. You're sitting right next to your wife. She's right there. Why are you talking to me? Talk to her. It's not nice to ignore her. It's not respectful to your wife. And where do we see this in Torah? That God feels this way? Avraham was speaking to God, and then he saw guests coming. What did he do? He said, you'll have to excuse me, I got to go take care of the guests. And God loves him for that. And these are strangers. Certainly your own wife.